Well, hello there. Welcome back after a 10-long-day hiatus. The Online Darts Live Lounge returns with all the match play madness with myself, Phil Barr, Stan Simpson, and Jonathan Eaton here for the next few hours to talk you through what has been nothing short of a sensational Winter Gardens. Gentlemen, how are we?
Better than him. I am not okay today. Do not ask me for any. Do not ask me for any sort of. Well, you never get any darts analysis out of me anyway.
No.
But was there a darts match on last night? I don't remember much of last night, to be brutally honest, because the boys have done it. 75 years of pain is over. Do you know what, Barzi? I won't lie to you and say this. There was a part of me that almost decided to call in sick tonight and head over to Castlebar for the homecoming. But unfortunately, Big Mick has put the price up to about 500 quid one way, the bastard.
I still don't know what's happened, mate. I asked you which sport this was, and I think you thought I was being sarcastic. But I have no idea what's gone on.
I was very much not in a good space to talk, mate. I cried yesterday. So for those of you who don't know, my home county in Ireland, Mayo, they've been 13 All-Ireland finals since they last won it in 1951. There was a curse put on them, apparently, by a priest who said that the boys in 51 didn't show enough respect after going past a funeral. And they put a curse on them that said that you'd never win an All-Ireland ever again while all of them are still alive. And the last one that played in the match died in 2021, just after the last time we lost the final to Tyrone. And the last surviving member of the panel died in 2023. So it's the first time we've been back since. And just yesterday, for everybody, like for everybody in my family on that side of the pond, you know, it was just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I'm sorry to wind you back, mate. I still don't know what sport you're on about.
Gaelic football, mate. Gaelic
right. So, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Mate, I am in the green and red of Mayo. The green and red of Mayo has been on my Spotify for the last 24 hours. It has just been. Wow. You know what? And this is the thing now, right? I now understand what it'd be like if England win a men's football World Cup in this country. And you can have it now. I've had my moment in the sun, quite literally. Mayo have finally won an All-Ireland, and like everybody that I know, a few of my family are watching tonight because they were saying, "Why can't you come over?" And I said, "Well, I've got a live lounge and it costs a bomb." So to every single person that's over in Mayo today, enjoy this one. Gutted I'm not there, but what a week.
Yeah, well, I've had quite the different. I'm tremendous. Right? I'm very good because
good.
We've had such a gorgeous couple of week run. I mean, I went back to work today. So I went back to work today and I'm this jovial and happy, right? That's how well things are going at present. We still have been on this. I mean, we've been on this little match play run for a few weeks now because we've obviously had the live show with you guys up in my hometown. It was amazing. I had a genuinely superb week. I continue to feel like very, very privileged. The experience that I had in Blackpool last week was amazing. It is the best venue in darts, bar none. Arguably in I mean, don't pull that face. It's not even close. But actually, I said to Phil this last week, it's not.
Oh, Dan's crashed.
Has he gone? Oh, he's already hearing about Mayo. He's crashed.
He'll be back in a minute. He was having a lovely time.
It was, yeah. His Wi-Fi is still getting up to speed with the fact that he's actually been with us. So, yeah. So, Dan.
To be fair, we drained all the Wi-Fi when we went up to the northeast.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised they have Wi-Fi up there. No, do you know what? Actually, as a side note, quickly, mate. I know we haven't had a chance to talk about it. How wonderful was it up in the Billingham Catholic Club? Genuinely, it was amazing.
It was amazing, and they've already asked us to come back again next year as well.
Amazing.
Which we are going to do, but oh, wait a minute.
There we go. Yeah, no, honestly, right. It was such a special time to go up there into the northeast. It really, really was. And And like I say, the hospitality was fabulous. I mean, I had a full hospitality thing from Dan Simpson. I was in Simpson Manor for most of the Monday, and it was fantastic. Honestly,
well, I should have been, but there was a bit of drama, but we got there in the end.
Are we talking about that yet? Are you still talking about it?
Yeah, for those that don't know, my car decided to brake as I was leaving to drive up. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. There we go.
There he is.
There we go. Lovely.
Even
We're
my
back,
internet, even my Wi-Fi crashing isn't taking the edge off me today. No, I'm back to work today, but that's fine because I've had 9 days of. We had you guys up here for the match play preview. I've had an unbelievably fun time in Blackpool. Done some really good stuff with Anna and the kids. A new car arrived today. That's fun.
Hello.
Yeah.
What have we got?
Wow, mate, I've gone today. So for the first time, I've took advantage not just of a heated seat, but of a cooled seat, a ventilated, cooled seat. It's marvelous, and I'm now. I've gone plug-in hybrid, so instead of having 2 electric cars, I've now got at least 1 engine. But it was amazing. The Blackpool was absolutely incredible. And what was lovely was we got to catch up, or I got to catch up, probably more than Phil, who has to exist like a sort of gremlin in the back room and doesn't get out in the sunshine very much and to see people. But I met a number of people that watch regularly and that get on the show and get in the chat room often. So that was really nice to catch up with a few of the guys that take the time out of their week to watch our stuff and contribute and comments, and then watch along yesterday. So a lot of the folks in the chat room were on the stream. We had like mad numbers yesterday for our watch along of the final. So it's been an absolutely fantastic week. I had an absolutely lovely time in Blackpool for the time I spent down there. I travelled back Friday, because it was my lad's birthday at the weekend, and even a man that gets away with as much as I do, couldn't quite get that one past Mrs. S and the kids. So yeah, I was back in Teesside for the weekend, but it meant I could do a bit of a fun watch along yesterday on the stream with everybody. So it's good, amazing tournament.
Just before we go any further, I won't go into what's happened here, but Dan has had an absolute worldie of a weekend. To in terms of trips, haven't you, sir?
Oh yeah,
you've got away with it. You've got away with it perfectly, my friend.
Well, the secret to a successful marriage is timing. And,
yes.
And it's so every now and again I have to reveal to my good lady wife that I've got something up my sleeve. It could be a trip to Minehead, it could be another venture to Blackpool, it could be something, and a lot of these things, it's about timing. It's about and we've got a little trip over to see some racing in Dublin, and I've already probably overly used the fact that it's my 40th next year, and I'm monthly 40th celebrations are a bit in excess, so I waited for one. I'd had that in the chamber for a while, and over the weekend it was her turn to say, oh, actually I've planned this trip and it's going to be pretty expensive, and quite fun. It was in a room full of people, even with my mother in the room as well. I was able to say, that's not a problem, love. In fact, I'm quite glad you've done that, because it gives me a good opportunity to share this one with you. Just so you know, me and the lads have got a bit of a plan for next year. Don't worry, we're wrapping it up as part of the 40th plans. No, it's all good.
Yeah, look, 100%. We'll come back to this minute. We're just going to jump into the chat room. Sarge is in. By the way, anyone that doesn't, Tip Top Pictures, Chris did an amazing job at the match play that we stole all of his pictures. So thank you very much, Sarge. Kate is in. Gordo, how we doing? Shelty, Lindsay, Dean, it is Ram, Matthew, Kieran, Rob, Owen, how we doing? 80 is in. Daniel, Excalibur, Wayne, how we doing? I didn't go to Trilogy, but I saw some of the players and staff that went to Trilogy, and they weren't in a good way the next morning. I'm not going to name names. Bridget, I mean,
I think the nearest I've ever been to truly understanding what a really severe anxiety attack could feel like was after going to Trilogy. I've had some of the most frightening and strangest nights out ever in that place. However, I have also had some of the best nights. I once got to spend an entire evening in a VIP booth at Trilogy where I just kept telling somebody what I fancied to drink, and they brought me a bucket of it for the whole evening. And I shared that evening with the great Mr. Ricky Hatton. Like, one of the best nights out I've ever had in my life was.
I remember that. I remember that.
Well, because I couldn't send people enough pictures of me with drinks stacked up high and Ricky Hatton on. Oh, what a trip! What a place!
Well, do you know what? I'll never forget. 2019 was my first match play I covered as media. And do you remember we went to Walkabout, Philip, on that Saturday night?
And I walked in in shorts and flip flops.
Yeah. Well, do you remember as well? Did we go out as well the night that COVID restrictions were finally lifted? When we shouldn't have really gone out. That was good fun. Yes, those were the nights.
Connor is in. Last suspect. Rob, how we doing, mate? Liam, Stu, the wee man. Evening, my friend. Hope you are good. Mark, hope you are well, mate. Great showman. How do? It is absolute. Chat room is on fire. Thank you so much.
That's because I put it on my social. See, that's that. There we go. Dan's doing his bit to build the brand.
But yeah, look. Speaking of it, we have tested some merch ideas, and they seem to have gone down really, really well.
Look at this.
It was a Blackpool trial that's worked. Now we've got to do is put it into action.
Yeah, we were on brand, weren't we, mate? We got some
out of interest. Sorry, out of interest in the people in the chat room, would you actually be interested in buying it? Let's do a poll.
I'll tell you what, Jarlath, when we were actually there, we got some. I would say that we had some interest of people who have pretty much explicitly said to Phil that he has to make sure they get one. They are probably far better than us to actually advertise these teachers. Like, if we can get them, a certain Radio X presenter is stamped their feet and said she needs a Live Lounge t-shirt. So we're gonna get some more. We're gonna get some more people in some of these t-shirts, and then that might spark a bit of interest, I think.
Nice.
Yeah,
Sarge wants one as well. We should have stuck him in one in Blackpool.
There's a few people. There we go. There's a few people in there, so they want it. All right, that's it then. It's happening.
Yeah. But look, the match play is the most wonderful 10 days on the darting calendar. From the arena, the action, the atmosphere, it's just different to anything else. And look, I don't think round one particularly lived up to expectation. However, from round two onwards, oh my. Anthony is in. How are we doing? Mr. Eugenia from the great state of Texas via the greatest city in the world. Hope you are well, my friend.
You could talk about it being the best 10 days, but it isn't a patch on Reds. I'm joking. I
think there was a worry, and I turned to you, I think maybe after day two, Phil, and said, this could. I think lots of people were really, including us, we were really excited when we looked down that list of seeds and the list of unseeded players that were going to be drawn out. And there were some potentially really, really naughty fixtures, and we could have seen some upsets in there. And I think the draw worked out quite well for lots of the seeds. Clearly it did when you look at the results. And we didn't quite get what, in the weeks and months running up to the match play, we thought we could see all sorts of crazy fixtures and some upsets. But what it actually meant in reality is, whereas that first couple of days went sort of to plan for the seeds, what it meant was, and this is how these brackets often nicely work out, then all the seeds have to start playing each other. And sooner or later, you get those box office matches because people have got to turn up and perform. Just a quick shout as well, because Warren's in. And yeah, Warren picked an unbelievable night. And Warren was in there for the 9. I've got to go up and see him on the balcony and have a chat with him. So a quick nod to Warren there. He was always in the chat room, and I did get to have a chat. And I popped out of the press room to go and have a chat with him.
Sorry, I thought you were going then. I thought you were going for something. Otherwise, I would have jumped in.
Yeah, 100%. We'll come on to round 2 in a minute, but there was a couple of standouts in round 1. One of them being Gary Anderson, from absolutely nowhere decided to go, I'm going full vintage Flying Scotsman. An average just under 110 casually, like you do. And
Shite.
if that starts, I'm Oski.
Yeah, exactly that. Shite.
But massive shout out to Cameron Menzies, because I don't think anyone gave him a hope and a prayer against but
excuse me.
But right, everyone has known from a long time that Cameron Menzies' aim game is right up there, but we hadn't seen it on TV. This felt like a real breakout performance for Cammy, and to win it on the 170 was just ridiculous.
If I'm allowed to go here, 2 weeks this evening at the Billingham Catholic Club, what did I say on our stream? I said Cameron Menzies is going to push Luke Humphries all the way, and there's a very good chance he beats him. And I got ridiculed by you, by Mace, by Duzzer, by everybody in the venue. They all couldn't believe what I just said. And I'll go further than that. I said it was going to be Luke Littler versus Gerwyn Price, and Luke Littler wins. It's not difficult, boys. Just pick winners. Just pick winners.
Broken clock's right twice.
It is a broken clock. But no, on a more serious note, Cammy was absolutely outstanding. The checkouts in particular, as you mentioned, the 170 was great.
Yeah.
But it was the will for him to win. That was the thing. Like, Luke played well. You know, he's averaged just under a ton. Like, it's not like he's had an off day. But
no, exactly.
But I think what's really important is, especially after coming back from the Worlds, where he was ridiculed by everybody for punching the tape. I'm not going to go down that road, but the fact that he's come back and he's done that on arguably the second biggest stage of them all just shows to people that actually he's not a one-trick pony. He's not just some bloke who's punched the table. He's actually a very good dart player. And, like, you know, where's he jumped up to now? Because I'm pretty sure he's jumped up a little bit in the order of merit. He's only jumped up one spot. He's up to 26th in the world, but he's not miles off, you know, getting away from Ryan Joyce. Obviously, tomorrow there's a chance that he might go a bit further up, because we know he can perform well on the Pro Tour, and there's a way that he might go up, into Hildesheim.
Well,
but, you know,
we've talked a lot, haven't we, about players in and around those rankings, and you know, in that sort of 20 to 30, where we're going to find out over a period of time where they're going. I still don't think Cam Menzies has sort of settled at his level yet. But I think what he's continuing to do is build a base on which to steady his ranking. You've got to be able to pick consistent ranking money up that keeps you at a level, and then you can look to then build on that and pull your way up. And then you might find that you get invited to more. You know, you get to take part in more things. You're seeded better in things, which means you come through the early rounds a bit easier. And you know, I think that's what he's doing. I think he's starting to build a base. I think the win over Luke Humphries is unquestionably, in my opinion, and he might even look back and say that some of the wins, you know, the Grand Prix quarter finally made and the Grand Slam quarter finally made, that the wins en route to that are, you know, is that a bigger achievement? Possibly. But I think that win in that venue against Luke Humphries is absolutely huge, because especially when we know, Cammy has been on a bit of a journey in trying to get himself, I think, healthier across all metrics, whether it's physically healthier, whether he's trying to get his head in a better place, whether he's approaching the game a little bit different. That win for me proves he's on that path, and it's really interesting to see what he can back that up with. It's a real shame that his tournament ended the way that it did, because that could have been such a catalyst. With the very greatest respect to Ross Smith, I'm a big Ross Smith fan, but if you've turned over Luke Humphries in the fashion by which he did, that means that the Ross Smith match was a winnable game. He could have won that match. And the fact that he didn't get to play that out is a real shame. It's a real, obviously, his health is more important than anything else. So that's the priority. And we're really pleased to hear that he is on the mend, and we were hearing fairly quickly that he was improving. It's just such a shame because he could have tore up that. We've seen so many rogue, the year that we saw Rids and Ratajski race through to semi-finals, and we saw big names stumble early, maybe not get quite as deep as they would have liked. Lots of people picked Nyman to go further. Lots of people thought MVG would go further. Cammy could have took advantage of some of those missing big names, and it's a real shame we didn't get to see that.
Just a couple of things yes, Adam and Mark have pointed out that he's not going to Hildesheim. I hadn't read that I'd read the list of people who had gone, but I completely saw that he completely missed that.
It's easy to miss someone in the length of that list, isn't it?
Jesus Christ, it's something we'll talk about, I'm sure, later. Christ.
You might as well just read the development tour for who's going.
Yeah, obviously, going back to the Cammy thing, it was quite... when the Ross Smith game happened, obviously, we were there, and I saw a lot of people going, oh, is this real? Is it? There was genuine concern for about 20 minutes, half an hour backstage that he was seriously ill, that his blood pressure rocketed to 240 at one point.
I've watched a lot of Casualty, and I know that's not good.
No, exactly. I'm no medic expert, but I know that's not good. But in the end, they managed to get it down to a level that he could go back to his accommodation and so on, and he was kept over, watched overnight and whatever. But yeah, he at one point he wasn't in a good way at all.
No, as someone who often has to deal with critical incidents as part of my proper job, it became very. I have a grown-up job and a pension. It became very clear very quickly to those of us who were immediately in the vicinity that people were treating that as a critical incident. There was, people were deeply concerned that he was very, very unwell, and I suppose he was but it's just very good that he recovered as quickly as he did, and again, both of them were reassured.
Like true sporting people, he wanted to go back out. He was like, give me 10 minutes and I'll go back out. The decision was rightfully taken out of his hands because like boxers, they want to go out, footballers, he wanted to go back up on that stage, but it was taken out of his hands.
What is worth just shouting out as well, so because you're right, Phil, to point that out, but there were obviously, because when that happens, there are a number of people that have to then spring into action, whether it's part of the broadcast team, whether it's commentators, whether it's Emma, and we were present with a lot of those people who are, of course, primarily, firstly, deeply concerned for their friend, colleague, fellow player in Cam Mendes, but immediately sprung into action, trying to keep things on track. And in that, so the shout out that I really want to, or one of the shout outs that I think we've got lots of match play reflection, I think today, is Lewis Jones, who did have to go out and address the crowd and explain what was going on with Cam Menzies, and he had to do that live in the venue, and that's always difficult, and there's different things going on. But I cannot say enough good things about the performance that we saw from Lewis this week. I thought it was absolutely superb from start to finish. I think his voice, that we said for a long time, you've got to let somebody sort of grow into it, and you've got to let them put their own personality onto it. It didn't sound like he was doing an impression of somebody. It didn't sound like he was trying to be something he wasn't. I genuinely thought he got so much of his personality into the way that he worked this week. And I spoke to him privately because I was desperate to share just how impressed I was and how much I think he got so much stick from right across the world of darts and beyond. And to have had the courage among that to continue to try new things and to develop different things and to do things in a different way, I honestly thought he was tremendous all week.
You obviously, I was watching a lot of it on Telebox, and you only see him when the players are coming on. But obviously, you see the behind the scenes stuff, which I thought, by the way, you want to shout out Lewis. I want to shout out, and look, we have a good relationship. We are not sponsored by him, but the PDC media team, by the way, with the social stuff this week was absolutely outstanding. I really thought, Josh and his team were brilliant at doing that. And like, that isn't us trying to get any favors or anything like that. That's just me praising something that's the case. But the stuff that they put out behind the scenes of Lewis giving the crowd, because again, if you haven't been to an event, you don't see that Lewis comes on during the break, starts with the singing, gets everybody involved. And like, you can see now, I mean, it's like night and day, isn't it? Like from where he was when he was starting doing like the Grand Slam in the afternoons. It's and everybody giving him shit. But this is my point. And I've said this for a while. You have to give people time. It's a new thing that you're learning. As much as you've got to deal with talk back in your ear, you've got to be able to say the right words and say things that you need to say in a short, concise period of time. Get your own stamp on it. And like, he's done an absolutely unbelievable job. Like, do not, and like you said before after the Premier League, Dan, everybody shut up about him on socials, haven't they? They've got something else to moan about now. And he's absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. And he was brilliant.
Round 2, the Aspinall Littler game. Oh my word.
Game of the tournament.
Right, not just the fact that Littler's put in an unbelievable performance, shock horror, we love him to bits. But I think that could be the game that reignites Nathan Aspinall. The game that makes Nathan Aspinall fall in love with darts again. Because the performance was sensational, and he threw everything at Littler. And I think, even though he lost, I think he loved every single minute of that game.
I mean, you look at it, right? And you look at the fact that, obviously, in the first 5 legs of the match, Littler obviously hits the 9. He has a chance on 70 in a second leg. He misses double 15 for another, and yet Aspinall's still only 3-2 down by the end of it. That showed you there. Everyone takes the piss out of Sky and everything like that when they go, "Oh, he's he's a fighter, he's a grafter, he'll never give up," and all the rest of it. But he clearly didn't. Like, was it 6-4 or was it 5-all? I think at the second break.
At one point, it was 7-all. After 14, it was 7-all.
So that goes to show you just exactly how well the bloke had been playing. And like, what I found really funny was after the 4th leg when he goes and gives his darts to the crowd and goes, "Anybody want to have a go?
Anybody want to have a chuck?"
No, but the thing is this, right? Is the fact that now it's quite obvious to me, and Nathan fell out of love with darts a little bit. He's had his own other priorities, and that's fine. Like, you want to go and get married, you want to make sure that everything's okay for the kids. No issues at all with that. Your health and family and your own life comes first, regardless of anything for sport. But I think that now, after missing out on the Prem, doing all that, I'm not going to go and say he's going to win one, because I'm spoiler alert, everybody. Luke Littler's winning everything, but we'll come on to that, I'm sure, later. But do I think that he's got an opportunity of making another major final like he did last year? If he continues on that fall, yeah. What he needs to do is do what Wesson Nyman did. Get out of 16th spot, because you do not want to be facing Luke Littler in the last 16 of a tournament.
Yeah.
You need to be on the opposite side of the effing draw to him. Simple as.
Get out of that spot, PDQ. But
Correct.
For me, that was unbelievable. Just the numbers were unreal from Littler in that game. And to be that close is credit to Aspinall.
It was the best. It's one of those things, and we talked about it on the watch along yesterday with Gezi, and we'll come to talking about the final. But I think people used to have this, and it's, I suppose it's arguably the highest compliment you can pay somebody in darts, isn't it? That this is how it used to be when Phil Taylor was at it, because you had to. There was a period of time where your success as a dart player couldn't really be measured in what you had won, because you didn't get to win things. That bloke won it all, and you then just ended up having to measure the fact that where you sit amongst everybody else. Well, if you got to the final, you're the best of the rest. And then how well did you play against him? Well, if you average 107, well, that means you would have beaten any other normal person, wouldn't it? So you are the second best dart player that week. Like you're the best dart player that isn't him this week. You've done great. And the other thing as well is there's still big money on offer for like the thing with, and we'll talk loads about it over the next couple of months, because there's lots of majors coming thick and fast, or big TV events. Whilst we've got Littler passing the 3 million mark, he's flying well ahead. There you go.
I'm sorry. It's just a ludicrous amount of money. I'm sorry. It's just.
But there is still an absurd amount of money to be earned across all of the different price. I mean, Gezi Price is laughing yesterday, and people were saying he's not taking it seriously enough. There was a point in there where I said, look, the bloke is averaging 107 and he's guaranteed 125 grand. I'd be hard to upset on that day. If I'm averaging 107 and someone's giving me 125 grand for the pleasure, like, are you going to find me with a smile on my face? It's
100%.
So I do think, especially the more, and I don't mean mature in age, I almost mean those that have been around the top end of the game a bit longer, the Gezi Prices, the Nathan Aspinalls, certainly the Gary Andersons of the world. Like, they can walk off the stage, look at their numbers and think, there's nothing more I could have done there. Like, there was a stage in that final yesterday where the only way Gezi Price could have held his throw was to throw 9 darts. That's the only way. Like, he would have to, and you know what? 10 darts wouldn't have done, because that's another visit and he wasn't getting, literally just to hold on to his coattails. Gezi would have had to be getting out in 3 visits, because Luke's going out in 4 visits. Always. Like, Luke, if you looked across 15 legs, there was 1 or 2 legs where Luke wasn't getting out in 4 visits. Well, you can only go, the only time you can go better than 4 visits is to get rid of it in 3 visits. And that means 9 darts. So it's deeply challenging. But Aspinall, so going back around to Asp, I think Nathan takes a huge amount from that game. And I think he goes into the rest of the season, if you will, thinking, well, only Luke Littler's outperforming me. Only Luke Littler's outperformed me there in that game. I've been edged out by him. So Nathan Aspinall can go mix it up with anybody in the world at the moment, playing the game he's currently playing. Which and that's not only is it good for Nathan, it's good for us. It's good for darts fans.
Yeah, look, 100%. And just they did in the press room, Wayne and that did the math. So Luke Littler could have averaged 86 in that final, and he still would have broken the tournament record average. That's how far in front he was, that he could have averaged 86 in the final and still broken the record.
Are we just going to go on to the final now, Phil?
There's lots of other good things to talk about.
There's other bits that we can.
There's lots.
We can do.
There's a couple. Do you know what? There's a couple of we're still in the early stages, but there's a couple of things that I'm excited about, right? And again, we won't go too deep into all of them, but just a couple of names. We talked about Cam Menzies coming through those early rounds. I was very, very excited to see, because I think he didn't get the Premier League run that he deserved in terms of the standard he was able to produce. But seeing Jan van Veen
that 148. Oh my word.
Oh, it was just, and the fact that he worked his way through games that, like, everyone said the Ratajski game is going to be tricky, because Ratajski is tricky, and if he catches you cold, and Van Veen's been a bit out of form, then everyone that I talked to picked Nyman to beat Van Veen. Then everyone picked James Whitty to beat Van Veen.
That's not necessarily a moronic pick, but if you pick Nyman over Van Veen, I'm sorry, you're a moron.
Well, I was in the minority on that one. I was in the minority.
It's ridiculous. Sorry, I need to pull this up. I'm really sorry to interrupt you. I know you're mid-flow, and I do apologise, but I need to pull this up, man. Like, how is Jan van Veen, a World Championship finalist, a Premier League player, 6-4 to beat Vessel Nyman, who has done the square root of fuck all on television, 8-15 on? The bookmakers would no. No, mate, not of that. No, that's ridiculous.
Don't get me wrong. What you said about Jan is correct. But since his kidney stones, he has not been the same player. If you look at look at his numbers pre-operation and post-operation, I can understand why Wessel was favourite. Because since that, he has not done anything. Right? The numbers have been awful. Since that day, the numbers have been awful. So I get it. And when you look at seasonal numbers, as we do, there is a good case why Wessel was favourite. And I get it.
No, hang on. I didn't say that. I didn't say that I ain't got an issue with him being fav, because he's won a lot of titles. But that much of a favourite against a bloke who's played in a World Championship final and been in the Premier League this year? No.
Yeah, but based on... I get it. 100% I get it.
Well, it's moronic, and Bill made money off it. I did as well. But that's just disrespectful. I know I sound like Joe Cullen. I get it, but it is disrespectful but this is the thing, though, right? How often are we going to say this about Wessel right now? And again, it's another one where, of course, he'll qualify for the World Grand Prix. He'll probably qualify for the Slam and all the rest of them. But until such time as he does something on television, you can't have him favs against big players. You just can't. It's another one where he hasn't made a quarter final.
Do you think, whilst he hasn't made the quarter final, a lot of people seem to, and this has been in discussion for it, of his outstandingly good floor form, what he's done in the Euro Tours, but in those televised Premier events, he hasn't been able to pick. He couldn't buy a win in virtually all. When you look through the record, it is unfortunately first round exit after first round exit after first round exit. I have a bit of a theory that I sort of shared with Phil while we were in Blackpool last week, that the fact that he picked up his first round win there, I don't think he's got his flowers because of who he beat. I think if he'd picked it up against somebody that wasn't Chizzy, people would now, they wouldn't be making so much of a fuss and still insisting hasn't done it on telly. And I think there's almost an exclamation mark where they've said, yeah, but it was Chisnell, wasn't it? Last qualifier, lowest ranked, yeah, and he's still out to. I get that he hasn't made a quarter, that he hasn't gone on that deep run.
I understand, right, that people, Joel, you're one of the biggest Wessel Nyman fans there. I get it. You back your boy. I understand that. I really do. But the thing is that, and to borrow a phrase from one of my favourite football pundits, you have to lose to win. And I do concede that argument. Like, you can't just go, unless you're Luke Littler, go and rock up on a Pro Tour and a Euro Tour and then go and win every major title in the book. I get that. And yes, he does deserve his flowers for winning a game on television, because that is a big start. But like Barzi says, your favourite against Jan van Veen. People are talking you up. You're on the opposite side of the draw. You've got, Luke Humphries has just gone. Luke Humphries is gone. Your main rival, one of the biggest rivals, the biggest chances of getting into a World Matchplay final is gone. And you're playing a bloke who has not been in a rich vein of form. Like,
that's what we have to, what we have to think there. I mean, there's only been a handful of events this year so far. We're getting into big TV season, but Jan van Veen, we know that he made the final of the World Championships. Obviously, that's where the rankings come from. But if we back that up with a semi-final at the Masters, He's now done a semi-final at the match play. He made the final of the World Cup. How much you want to give, credit for that? It depends on what you're into. I do think it was a confusing one because, like I say, and I know the form hasn't been amazing for Van Veen, but I think a lot of that, what people are looking at, is the Premier League. He made a final of a Euro Tour. He's done fairly well on the floor. He's done all right. Certainly in the run-up, the last couple of events, we saw a quarter-final and a semi-final from him on the floor. I think he's coming back into form. I think he's unbelievably dangerous for the rest of the year. But I think him and Wessel they'll meet again. And I do sort of think that fixture, I feel like we've got these, and we got it. So we'll talk about it in a minute. Is that we've got this exciting Littler and Rock, what we think is going to be a regular meeting in TV events. We know they're going to play each other on the Premier League all the time, but we think Littler and Rock are going to keep bumping into each other. And it seems that Wessel and Jan Van Veen are often on the same path, and I think we're going to see that go a bit of both ways. I think by the end of the year, I would be surprised if the head-to-head wasn't fairly level.
But as I come back to, there are big things where, it's all right winning games on the Euro Tour and the Pro Tour and everything like that. But when the big cameras are around, you've got to be able to do it if you're going to be a big star in this sport. Like, as I keep saying, Pro Tours and Euro Tours, it might get you in this year because Luke Littler's hoovering up every major title under the sun. But, Wessel there, he did the good thing. Like, he managed to get on the other side of the draw where Luke Littler wasn't. You're in a section of the draw there. If you look at the seeds in particular, Van Veen, Wade, and Searle. I'm not saying that they're not crap players. I'm not saying that. But if you could have handpicked, there are very few better places to be in that draw, realistically. So all I'm saying is that until such time as I see him do a big run on television, I just don't want. I like Wessel. I think he's a great player. I think he's a fantastic talent. I just don't want him to become an Ian White. That's all I'm saying. And until such time as he's not going to become an Ian White, I can't put him up there in the same things the same things as as a Rock even or Gian or anything like that.
Dirk. No, this was. I didn't have this on my bingo card. A run to the semi-final from Dirk, and there was some good stuff. There was some indifferent stuff, and certainly towards the back end of games, there was some "oh shit, get me out of here" stuff. I think we saw every range of Dirk's game during the match play.
I'll tell you what it was, and I've never made this accusation of Dirk van Duijvenbode before. It was very watchable. Very watchable. Yeah. There are certain players. Everyone's got their players that they're fans of. And for whatever reason, whether you just like who they are as a person, you will support them and get behind them. And therefore you'll watch them play. I think there are other players that, regardless of how you feel about them, they are watchable players. I think James Wade is one of the most watchable dart players ever. I think he's incredibly watchable. I'm also a big fan of James Wade, but he's very watchable. Dirk van Duijvenbode in this World Match Play tournament was incredibly watchable. His game against Dobie, as frustrating as I found that as a fan, it was a fascinating watch. It was tense. It went into overtime. He then went into overtime again with Michael van Gerwen. The Gary Anderson victory, we saw, like Phil says, a mixed bag. At that point, though, I thought in terms of scalps to have taken on a route through, it's difficult to conceive a more challenging route through of an open bracket like that, where you've got to, Chris Dobie, absolute nightmare of an opening draw. Then you've got to play Michael van Gerwen. Then you've got to play Gary Anderson, who has averaged 110, then binged out Johnny Clayton. So this is like, that's the context with which you are then meeting Gary Anderson. I thought Dirk put on an incredible show. He has increased his stock as a player that potentially could be considered for things like, and I'm not saying he hasn't got to keep playing well.
Don't.
Be careful. I'm not going where you think I'm going. I'm not going where you think I'm going. World Series exhibitions, World Series events, that is the sort of, like, when you've got that walk on, the crowd in that room, right?
Yeah.
I was in there. I was filming them. Those walk-ons when Dirk came out, he had the crowd, the entire room. He had them up off their feet. When you are playing incredibly watchable darts, when you can captivate a room with your walk-on, and you can rattle through a tournament, binning out Dobie, MVG, and Gary Anderson, you are saying to the world and the promoters of
hang on, isn't it a governing body?
Promoters.
You are saying governing body. I read today. I read today it was a governing body, mate.
Yeah, I shared that with you, and some fucking idiot wrote it. Classed it as journalism. Classed it as journalism and called them a governing body. Like, you genuinely, you are sending a message to the people in that promotion that you put bums in seats, you entertain, you deliver in venue for the crowd, and you provide highly entertaining darts on the TV. I think he's got to do more. I think he's got to, but I look at the rest of the year and I think, well, like we said earlier, this isn't now a situation whereby over the course of a year, there's going to be 4 or 5 or 6 different winners of major trophies. And if you make a couple of finals, you'll probably join them in the World Series events or the Premier League or whatever. We are now at a point where one lad's going to win it all. You've got to make finals, but then you've got to then stake your claim. And say, why have I got to be on this show with him? I can compete with him. I can play good darts. I get the crowd up. I can beat these other lads that you're taking because I beat them on big stages here, there, and everywhere. He's got to do more, but I genuinely believe he is on the upward trajectory, not just in the rankings, but in how he is perceived as a star within the darts world.
It's very simple for me, at least. Anyway, since the injury, he hasn't been back to the heights that he was, but he might be coming back to those heights. Look, the only reason why I say don't do it is because I don't wish to have a discussion about the P word in the last week of July.
I was avoiding it.
We're not doing it. No,
I
resigned.
The World Series exhibition tour.
I resigned. If we're having a P word discussion in August. No, last week of July, I'm resigning.
It's not called the Premier. It's not called the Premier League. It's rebranded. We're seeing a new format. It's going to be called An Evening with Luke Littler and Guests. And
yes,
it's going to be an evening with Luke Littler.
Do you know what they should have done? Do you know what they should have done? You know that thing that Netflix are launching? You know, that
I've just done that in each city of the country.
That would have been a Premier League. See how it goes.
Are you trying out?
This is right as well. You can do better.
Oh, well. This is...
that is possibly my favourite moment of the week. I've got to be honest.
I'm not sure it's accurate.
Is that a serious question? You can do better.
I'm not sure.
Say that, man. Oh, you can. I suppose you can.
You can.
But yeah,
I just think it's all banter.
It's great banter. It really is. The problem was for Dirk is that he just ran out of steam and he came across the best player to ever do it. Sorry, I was saving that for later, but yeah, that's what with Dirk.
Yeah, and I think what he couldn't do, and this might be experience, this might be, the way the other players approach it. But whereas Gerwyn Price knew he wasn't going to catch him, but he kept the level up. Aspinall knew he could do nothing with him. kept the level up. Rock knew he wasn't going to catch him. I think Dirk was watching Luke Littler averaging 111 and thinking, on my best day, I can't. And I think he let his head get down. And I don't so much think he was run out of steam. I think the steam was pumped out of him, I think, and he was deflated.
The big thing is as well, you mentioned the Josh Rock, it's going to be a bit of a regular thing, but it's not a rivalry unless you win. Luke's played him 10 times and he's won them all. Like, he's played him 10 times and he's won every single one of them, all in the past year. Like, that has to change quickly. If Josh is going to get, because the chances are, spoiler alert, everybody, the chances are over the next couple of years, if you want to win a TV title, at some point you're going to have to go through Luke Littler. There might be the odd occasion where that doesn't happen, but the rule will be you will have to beat Luke Littler if you want to win a major televised title in the next 2 years. That has to change quickly from Josh Rock's point of view, very quickly.
So, 109.53, 113.68, 109.57, 110.88, 111.53. They are the numbers in the individual games that Luke Littler posted for a record-breaking World Match Play. That is bamboozling. That is frankly ridiculous. And we're not talking about first to sixes here either. It's over 16 legs, over 19 legs,
well,
over 24 legs, and so on.
That is what makes it, that is what makes it so impressive, is the format and the competition within which he's done that. Because this isn't a round. This isn't the World Cup. This isn't a round robin. This isn't a couple of legs. This isn't best of whatever, best of 11. This is long format marathon match play darts, and he is hitting a level. What we saw these levels from him last year, but we saw them in patches, and he started hitting those levels once he was 5 or 6-0 down, which meant his mean average over the tournament was bobbins, because he just didn't play for the first 7-8 legs, and then he thought, shit, I'll be out here if I don't rattle off 10 legs. There we go, I'll do it. He was at it from the beginning, and we saw that. We did see this from round one. We said loads of times, if you're going to get him, you've got to get him early. You've got to get a lead. He might start slow, and he took the piss out of everybody that's ever alluded to that this week, because he leg one, Nathan. There you go. Keep up with me, son. It was incredible.
I don't care. I don't care how many people want to call me a moron in the chat room. It's quite obvious. He's the greatest to ever do it. He just is. Phil, obviously, with the longevity element of it, obviously merits consideration. I'm not saying otherwise, but he's just the greatest to ever do it. He just is. Phil would, I struggle to see where Phil could hit these averages and hit that tournament average. He could hit that in a game. Of course he could. But to do that, to average 110 for a tournament over that distance of games, it is special. I get why as well. People. There's a question, I can't remember who it was who put this in the chat room. They said, why do people boo Luke Littler? Because the country that we're in, they don't like wins. They like the fact that somebody's an underdog that goes to the top, and then as soon as it gets to the top, take them down a peg.
They're also often saying Luke and not booing. Like
that's
Jude
true.
Bellingham. There is a Jude, Luke, there is a ooh to his name, unfortunately. That means sometimes if you're in the venue, you hear everyone say Luke, and if you're watching it on the TV, often that background noise, it sounds more like a boo. But often, sometimes it is, but not really as it comes across.
But let me just put this out here. Guess he didn't play badly last night. He was averaging close to 107 for the majority of the game. And that is the key thing here. Luke was averaging close to 113 for the majority of the game. In a final, in a World Match Play final. And like you mentioned earlier, Dan, he has got the ability, at a point, you would have to take out you'd have to take out a 9-darter to break the throw because he's going out in 12.
Yeah, 12 times. So in 12 legs of the final, he went out in 4 visits, which means your only chat, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you go out in 10 darts, 11 darts, or 12 darts, because your opponent doesn't get to throw one between your 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Yeah.
Which means to prevent him getting his 10th, 11th, or 12th darts, you've got to go out in 9. So there were 12 legs of the final where the only way that Gezi Price could have won it was to go out in 9. It's absurd. You can't beat that.
He is honestly, as I say, he's the greatest, certainly the greatest talent there has ever been in darts. And that's not particularly close, because the problem with Phil in this debate, when I come on to it, is that Phil had a great bit of talent, but obviously Eric coached him into the win. I said this a couple of weeks ago on the show. He's done something now. Luke has just done something that only Philip Douglas has ever done. He's won the World Championships and the World Matchplay back to back in the same years. MBG hasn't done it. Gary's never done it. Rob Cross, people like that. Nobody's ever done it apart from Philip Douglas and Luke Littler. For me, he is the greatest talent there's ever been. And I'm going to go as far as to say he will go down as the greatest of all time.
Right now, I think we're in a bit of a snooker stage here. This reminds me very much of the Steve Davis, Stephen Hendry, Ronnie O'Sullivan debate. That Stephen Hendry had all the world titles, but everyone regarded Ronnie as the best. And I think this will rumble on in a similar vein, that the purists and the fans will go, Taylor's the greatest. The way they went, no, Stephen Hendry's the greatest. And I think this debate is quite similar and will rumble on in the same kind of context for years to come.
Yeah, by the way, last aspect, they're saying that Phil was not coached by Eric. I'm not saying he was coached, but obviously Eric took him under his wing, didn't he? Eric took...
he was coached to a point. That, certainly mentally he was coached.
Yeah, and the big thing is that the scary point of this is that, yes, Wayne was saying it last night, it might be in his peak at the age of 19, but fucking hell if it's not, good luck everyone, because I do not see how anybody.
Then it's scary.
This is the thing. I don't see a single person on that Pro Tour that can live. I mean, Humphreys can live with him. I'm not saying he can't, but that record over the long distance matches, what is it now? 28-1. The only game that he's lost that's gone over 20 plus legs was the world final on debut. And if he hits that double 2, he's a 3-time world champion already. Because that's the game. And I messaged Bookers last night. I hope he's watching. I hope the Littlers are watching in the chat room. But I can honestly say that he is the best talent I have ever seen. He's the best player I have ever seen. I've watched 10 of Phil's titles. I watched all of MBG's, world titles. I watched all of MBG's. I've seen Gary. There is nobody that has moved the needle for the kickoff, but there is nobody on this earth that plays darts or has ever played darts like Luke Littler has.
There is often parallels that can be drawn across lots of different sports, and the debate is never settled, because invariably the pioneer and then the modern era superstar never actually play against each other. Where they're on almost like a level playing field, where you could argue they were both at their best, and the debates are never settled. So there will never be a settlement to who is better, and because I'll tell you for something. If you look at golf is an example, right? So people will say Jack Nicklaus, and then people will say Tiger Woods. And then you'll go to tennis and someone will say Sampras, and then they'll say the big three, and you've got Nadal and Federer, and you could do Schumacher, and you could do Verstappen, and you can pluck anywhere, and you can go to a pioneer of the sport becoming massive. And then and even if you get the debate, everyone will have a view. And even if you get to a point where you say, right, but well, then it's purely down to numbers. This is what was in his trophy cabinet when he retired, and this is what was in his trophy cabinet when he retired. You'll then get into a debate that's all to do with modern training methods, modern equipment, changes in equipment, speeds of different things. And the debate will never truly be settled. It'll always just be opinion based. And you know what? I quite like it like that. I quite prefer it like that. We'll never know. There is no answer. You can say that that equipment was crap. The old balls were garbage. The darts that they were throwing, there's so much science that's now gone into them in the modern world. The amount of just pure competition, the preparedness that people have when they're coming to compete in sport is completely different. So the debate will go on forever, which is fine.
As I always say quickly, Barzy, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone has one, and they're usually full of shit.
And now, and now already, it almost to prove my point. We now get to a debate in the chat room about Nicklaus and Tiger Woods, because again, where do you just purely look in the trophy cabinet and say, well, he's got this many and he's got that many? It's different, it's very, very different. Everything about the way and the environments and everything else, equipment has changed. And
again, like basketball, Gary says there, MJ says you can't compare the eras, therefore there are no GOATs. But most people will say, was Wilt Chamberlain the greatest player to ever to do PE? Grown men to do PE. Was it Michael Jordan? Was it LeBron James? Who is the greatest person to ever, be a grown man to do PE of all time? Who knows?
The only thing I think, when you get these debates about, all sports, not darts, not just everything. And when you look at is I think the only one that I've ever seen properly settled, where universally you either agree or you have to admit that you are wrong or unintelligent, is you cannot argue the greatest ever Premier League striker. That's easy.
Harry Kane.
It's the only one I've ever seen. Don't be ridiculous. Numbers, mate. Numbers. Not a debate, is it? It's not a debate.
Got him.
Hang on, 1 sec. I'm going to annoy you for a minute.
Just for a minute. Is that all it is? Yeah, but no, I get it. I get it. The thing is, as well, is the fact that we come back to it with Luke. He's now 2 million clear. £2 million clear.
Before we move on to the women as well, a massive shout out.
Cheer up, Alan Shearer. What can it mean?
Massive shout out to the PDC security. Now, I'm not going to say how they did it, but they had undercover officers in the crowd this week, and it was brilliant to watch.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay.
I've said for years, Jar, I've said that what it needs, from my view, from an operational point of view, is it needs people to not see it coming, and when they act like a dick, they need to be dragged out by the feet and not let back in.
That's exactly what happened.
Every now and again, you get what you wish for, don't you? Sometimes you,
like as the old saying goes,
sometimes life goes all right.
What do you remember back in March, Daniel? Your meter that you always had that you gave me on that weekend. Oh, yeah, was that what's going on?
Some people were finding out, lads. There was some finding out. There was some of these lads were on a journey of self-discovery in Blackpool, and they discovered a few truths.
Obviously, the PDC security guys, we get to know them quite well because they're the same people that go to all the venues. And seeing G in a couple of Dart Players shirts was hilarious.
Yeah.
They were like full fan mode, dressed as a fan that you wouldn't have known. You wouldn't have known who they were, what they were, until it was too late. It was a joy.
Constantly singing "Scotland Get Battered" was a bit much, though. There's blending in and there's taking advantage, isn't there? There's taking it too far. But it was they did a very good job. I do think, and there's a couple mentioned it in the chat room there. It is one of the best crowds generally. But there are people, especially when you can resell tickets, and people, they walk among us, don't they? And sometimes you do get there's always a dickhead, no matter where you go. And whenever there was a dickhead, it appeared to be incredibly well dealt with swiftly.
Yeah. Do you know what though? I think that they'll be doing the same at Ali Pali, because having been there before, the prevalence for obviously alcohol, but obviously the prevalence to march to Colombia's favourite export is very, very much a truth. So I think that'll be very much needed certainly across a 6,000 seat room at Ali Pali. 100%. But like you say, there's always a dickhead in every walk of life, no matter what. There's always a dickhead.
Moving on, Sunday afternoon, the Women's World Match Play. First of all, it looked great on TV. The floor was full. There was people in the balconies. Every year this has grown. And again, the biggest one so far, it looked amazing for the ladies on TV. The fact that it was the balcony had people in this time, I thought it's a real good start and a real good selling point for the ladies' game, that it is growing, and you can see it growing as well.
It's continuing to grow. I was gutted because I came home at the weekend because it was Billy's birthday, but I was gutted to not be there for it. I do believe, and I'm happy to say this, in the room where we were there, Phil, where there's people that are involved in these decisions. I think that it is it's a real nightmare to get tickets for the match play and to get into that room. If you've got kids, if you've got a family, the tickets are very expensive and they are completely sold out for every other session. I believe wholeheartedly that the women's match play is an event where there is a real opportunity to use in a positive way what I think is probably termed now dynamic pricing, and basically drop the price through the floor for families with children. And because it baffles me why you would be satisfied to if you have a venue and you are running something in it, it baffles me why you will be willing to accept the single empty seat, because every empty seat might spend a tenner while they're in there, because they might buy a drink and buy a t-shirt and buy a program. Filled seats are better than empty seats, and I would absolutely try and find a way to sell a family ticket for 30 quid with 2 adults and 2 children, so that the players that are playing get to experience that room full of people who are getting to share that experience and enjoy it. It baffles me why you would be willing to have an empty seat. And I think because it's an afternoon session, and it's in the school holidays, the opportunity is there for me to say, right, well, we will offer very well priced dynamic family tickets. Let's get children an opportunity to watch darts in a venue, in an environment that's safe, and it's in an afternoon. It baffles me that it's not completely sold out. And I think that would do a better service to the players, because they all worked incredibly hard to qualify. They had to play very, very well to qualify for that event. If you qualify for an event like that and play in that venue, I think you deserve to play in front of it full. I think the promoters have a duty to fill that room up. They have an obligation to the players to make sure they play in front of a full room. So
yeah, 100%.
I think it's brilliant. I thought it was a really good tournament. I enjoyed it, but there is that little frustration in me that just thinks it's a missed opportunity. Like, as someone who's got kids and wants to get, and also knows how hard it is to get hold of tickets. Like, I looked at resale tickets this week when I was thinking of getting the kids in for a day and things like, and I was literally sat there with Phil going, no, I could get the kids in tomorrow, but for me to get the kids into any session, it's going to cost me 300 quid a ticket. Or it's going to cost me it's off the charts. So why not use that opportunity to get some more young people in the room, provide a full room for the players that deserve it?
And it's not just that. It's not just that as well. It's particularly for girls.
I
You know,
remember
again,
that's a room full of young girls that might see the Dieter Hedmans and Bo Greaves and everything that's gone before them on that walk on, get a high five off them, may go home and pick a dart up. So I just think it's a missed opportunity to not fill it full of young people at a cheap price and fill the room. And like I say, from a business point of view, I think it makes sense because an empty seat pays you nothing and a filled seat might buy a programme, buy a pint and a pie. It baffles me that no one's plugged that gap yet.
Yeah,
agreed.
Agreed. The darts itself, really enjoyed the Women's World Match Play. The quarterfinals, Bo beat Kirsty Vinakainen 5-1. Not too much surprise there. Gemma Hayter, Vicky Prum was an unbelievable game. Yes. Maybe not numbers wise, but it was full of drama. Vicky on the verge of victory. Gemma rolled back into it. It had a bit of everything. That game, really enjoyed that one. Lisa Ashton, Rhiannon O'Sullivan, again, the 5-2 scoreline perhaps flattered Lisa a little bit. As a contest, it felt closer than that.
Yeah, it was quite a watchable game, wasn't it? And I think you're right. It doesn't discredit the score because it felt like it was more on, in the balance than it actually looked in the end.
Yeah. And then Fallon beating Dieter. Look, Dieter didn't turn up. We know Dieter's a better player than that. It was one-way traffic where you could see early on that there was only one winner for what it happens in sport where sometimes it just doesn't happen. And you could see that Dieter tried everything to try and change it, but just one-way traffic, unfortunately, and Fallon prevailed. Semi-final.
Yeah,
Go on, Dan.
I just think it's a shame, and like again, it's a big, important, prestigious stage, and I think it's a shame that game didn't live up to what it could have been. The level that she could have reached, or is capable of reaching, would have again made I think just for a bigger story and again, there's lots of young dart players in the room, and I think it's just a shame. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying that I expected more, or I just think it would have been cool, wouldn't it, if we'd have got a big performance.
Semi-finals, Bo beating Gemma Hayter 5-4, and again that game had everything. And that one in particular, when Bo was on, it was breathtaking, but it was feast or famine, where she really struggled with her first start. If the first start was above her in the treble, it got filled. But if it was below, she was struggling to adjust in that game. And look, she produced when it mattered. A 104 finish to win it in the decider when Gemma sat on 95, I think, was an unbelievable moment. But again, a tight contest, an enjoyable and watchable contest in the first semi-final.
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, though, I it sounds silly. I do think there's an obscene amount of pressure on her, rightly so, because she's the rightful fav. She's set standards at the women's game for the past 4 or 5 years. She's done what no other woman has done in the PDC in terms of win a Pro Tour title, get qualified for Euro Tour. So when she's at a point where she's expected to win, and she was expected to win, I do think that can sometimes have a negative effect. And only didn't because she won the tournament. But, she made it difficult for herself, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Second semi-final, Fallon averaging 90 to beat Lisa Ashton 5-1. And again, Lisa didn't fire at all. Fallon was in control of that tie, setting up the final that most people probably wanted. Certainly, it was the final that the broadcasters wanted. And the final delivered, though, because it was a proper contest. It was nip and tuck. Could have gone either way. I think the massive turning point was leg 4 when Fallon messed up the 1-2-1. She had 6 darts to get rid of 1-2-1 for a 3-1 lead. ended up not getting a double. And from there, Bo having the throw was always going to be a tough ask, but thoroughly enjoyed the final because they both went at it. There was moments from both of them, and it had a bit of everything.
I thought it was a great watch. I think it's the best final we've seen. You know, we've seen better performances. I think 2024 Bo was just shy of a ton average. We've seen more trebles going in, but I think it's the best Women's World Match Play final we've seen in terms of it just being an entertaining game. I do think Bo did incredibly well because there were times where Fallon was getting at her, and she was playing the darts to push her, and the pressure, the level of expectation, it must be massive because not only Bo's there as a tour card holder and as an incredibly heavy favorite across, whether it's bookmakers, whether it's everyone, but she's also she's got the manufacturer with her, she's got the management company, she's got all that machine behind her, and it's a huge amount of pressure. I think often a little bit now Fallon's on a bit of a free hit in some of these games because she can. Fallon played with an awful lot of pressure and expectation for a large period of time when she was being pushed very heavily on TV by the broadcasters and by various other stakeholders. I think sometimes now in games like that, when Fallon plays Bo, the pressure's all on Bo and Fallon has a bit of a free hit. If she loses, then it's fine, isn't it? No one's shocked. No one's going to get at her. No one's messaging saying, "I've lost my bet. How dare you?" Like that's not there anymore.
A good thing here, a really good thing here, I think, is that for Bo, that she's now qualified for the Slam and she's now qualified for the Worlds. I know she was going to anyway because she was going to finish top of the Women's Series, but she might not be able to play the Women's Series anymore sooner rather than later. So to have that in the back pocket means that she's got the next 6 months now. She doesn't have to worry about getting a Pro Tour qualification spot. Obviously, she could do. I'm not saying she couldn't, but she doesn't have to worry about that. She doesn't have to worry about going to try and qualify for the Slam. She's got those already in the back pocket. Does that potentially, I'm not being funny, does that mean that she frees her up a little bit?
Well,
of course, as well. Yeah. Do you know what? Joel's right there. Joel's right, actually. Good point. She was already in the Slam there from the World Youth. I thought that was last year, as in the previous year, not this year's World Youth, of course. So does that mean then that goes back to the PDPA qualifier?
I've lost count on where places go now and what they do with them.
Yeah.
It changes all the time.
Somebody will know in the chat room.
I don't think it goes to the losing finalists. No.
There is that base though now. Like she is. Don't forget that. So she's in the first year of her tour card. There is only, I believe, one tour card. One other player that's in the first year of their tour card that's out-earned her this year, which is Cristo Reyes. She's going to pick up more and more money. She's going to the next Euro Tour. She's going to the Slam. She's going to the Players' Championship Finals. She's going to Alexandra Palace. What she's pretty much done is she's built a base on which let's be honest, no matter how much pressure is on you, no matter how much, where you come from and what your goals are, if you win a tour card, the main goal is to keep it. You then build from there and you try and do more and more things. But the first thing you have to do is make sure that after a 2-year cycle, you've still got one. That's going very, very well at the minute. That's going very well. She's going to still have a tour card. And then you build from there. And then you start to appear. And then you start to pick up wins on TV. And then the tour card, keeping the tour card stops being a concern anymore. And you can start to look forwards.
The big thing is as well, the World Youth Championship spot might be going back to the PDPA qualifier as well, because she's currently 4th in the Pro Tour Order of Merit for the World Championships. She's got 59.25k. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I don't think that anyone's going to take it. I think she's already safe for Alexandra Palace on that method as well. So I don't know whether that means that there's 2 spots that might be going back to the PDPA qualifier at this point.
I'm not a fan of that.
Really?
I think that place should stay within the women's game. Personally.
Yeah, I get that. Because I've always said, specifically now, that we have 80 players of the 1-2-8 that qualify for the World Championship.
Correct.
If you can't qualify from that with all the opportunities you're given, yeah, I don't mind. I agree with you.
I'd like to see that place stay within the ladies' game. Personally, also as well. Whilst we're on the ladies, it was a comment we said in the chat room. Is it now time that the ladies deserve another major?
No. And that's not for the reason that you think it is.
Is it because you're a massive misogynist?
No.
Oh, that's the reason I thought it was. I just thought you were up for the patriarchy and you thought they should all be getting back on with their cleaning or something. That's what you normally say, isn't it?
It definitely isn't. 100% not. Especially the father of a daughter. Definitely not. No, should I tell you the reason why? It's because I like the Women's World Matchplay. I like the idea of it, but I think that in order to raise the ladies' game into a position where we want it, they have to be playing against men more. And I think that if they further dilute it by having like a Women's World Championship or something like that, then to me, at least anyway, it's proving that men are different. And yet the PDC are trying to promote this as a unisex event. Like, I think it's going to be about 10 years before, what Barzi always talks about, the current crop of JDC who are playing girls, playing boys, and et cetera, before we really start to see that. Don't get me wrong. But the girls are turning up in those JDC events and they are playing really, really well. Like, let's have it right. Like, there's a couple that are really fighting through. And so that's why I think that I wouldn't be completely against it, but I don't think that having, say, a Women's World Grand Prix or a Women's World Championship would do anything to properly benefit the ladies' game to getting it to where we want to be. Does that make sense?
There's an easy win for me as the second mate. Well, there's a couple of bits. One, I think I would put 4 ladies in the UK Open. I'd give them qualifying places for the UK Open to play in that.
Yep.
And
agreed.
Also, you could do a women's players championship finals at Minehead.
Yeah, I like that.
It's an easy win. The setup is already there. You can do it off of the women's series order of merit. There's room at Minehead for it to happen. So for me, that's the easy win, which gives them more exposure, gives them more playing time on TV and so on.
I also like the idea, and I also like that idea because what I would like to see happen is, if possible, move the World Youth Championship final to somewhere in Minehead. But also, I'd love it if the Women's Series final, the Women's Series final would happen as well in between the games. Or we have the World Youth Championship final at the Grand Slam or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Because for them to wait 7 fucking weeks for it to happen after the qualification, it's ridiculous. So why don't we put the World Youth Championship final at one of the other majors? Maybe the European Championship final. Maybe send the World Youth Championship out there. Give Germany another big one. I don't know. And then go from there. Go and put the Women's Series finals. Do that across the Sunday. In room 2. That in room 2. Do that there, and then have the final on the main stage. I'd like that. Be great.
I don't dislike it at all, and I think it would be good for the ladies to have more than one thing to play for. And both said that in a press yesterday, that only having one thing to play for the women, they need more, and I agree.
But then again, my only argument to that is that if we wanted to make it a unisex tour, which is what Barry and Matt and the PDC have said for years they want to do, is giving them separate events, then diluting that prospect. I'm not against
Possibly,
what you're saying.
but I think it has to happen for me. I think they have to have more to play for.
I agree. I'm not saying otherwise, but like you say, I think 4 in the UK Open would be great. I also think maybe a spot in in one of the seeded elements of the Masters qualifier. Maybe give them a spot in that.
Don't dislike it.
No,
and then obviously, as I say, the 4 in the women's in the World Championship's great, 100%.
But yeah, look, Blackpool was and always will be a huge success, and it is still the best 10 days on the calendar. It just delivers time after time after time.
Can we talk about Gezi, by the way, briefly?
Of course we can.
The fact that he's now into the top 4 and MVG's in 6th position.
Interesting that he also said that he may skip the Premier League next year.
What, Gez?
Yeah.
He did that. He was heard saying that out loud. He becomes a granddad in January.
The end of January, his daughter is expecting, and he's going to be a granddad at the old age of 41.
Well, I mean, he won't have a choice, will he? At the minute, he's top 4, and also as well,
it's still an invite. I
could say no.
I can invite you to play my exhibition, and you can say no, mate.
But also, look at Gian. Only 10 grand behind Luke now. Gian Van Veen only 10 grand behind Luke Humphries. Who would have had that? Genuinely, who would have had that at the start of the year? I don't think many people.
Yeah, there is a very, very good chance at this point that when we go into, and this is going to be interesting because it goes to seedings and it's a long way from the World Championships. But there's a very good chance when we get to the World Championships that Luke Humphries isn't world number 2.
Well, looking at it right now, he isn't. He's not even world number 2 when we get. Well, he is at the moment when we get to the World Grand Prix, but right now, because obviously he's defending a World Grand Prix final from 2024. So, yeah, right now he's 200 grand off Gian Van Veen because he's also defending the Players' Championship as well.
This is the problem. Defending a lot of money.
Correct.
But this also shows the flaw in the current ranking system. And again, this isn't a knock on Gian because as a human being, he is amazing. But is he currently the world number 2? On current form, I don't behave.
Well, mate, this is the problem. Is that?
But this is the problem within the ranking system. It's not his fault. He's ranked where he is. But I want a ranking system that moves fluently and moves and has people in rankings where they are or where they should be.
Right.
This current system doesn't.
Who's world number 2 for you then right now, Philip? Genuine question.
Probably just Luke Humphries. But right now, I think Gezi is above. Yeah, I think so.
No.
Just.
No.
I'd certainly have Gezi above Gian at the moment on current form.
Well, if you're going to go for that, Gezi right now is world number 2. 100% he is.
But what I'm saying is I want a ranking system to reflect that. But
it's
not.
Gezi's made this year, if we're talking major TV events, right? Gezi has made a final, 2 semi-finals. That's very impressive. Yeah. That is very impressive. Yeah. Gian Van Veen has made a final and 2 semi-finals. The difference being the final that Gian Van Veen made was the World Championships. So they've both made a final and 2 semi-finals on TV. But one of them is ahead of the other because the final he made was the World Championships and not the match play. Like, you've got to have, there has to be and I agree, and we can have all the debates in the world as to whether or not the UK Open should be more important than this and that. But
it should be. It's the best weekend of the year.
But you can't argue that the match play, unfortunately, You can't argue that the match play is as prestigious as the World Championships. And the final of the match play should not be worth no matter what your metric is in terms of ranking, whether it's points, whether it's money, whether it's whatever. You can't make the case that making the match play final should be worth more than making the world's final, and that is the basis upon both of their rankings at present. So you've got to concede that Jan van Veen is rightly ranked above Gezi Price.
And Wester Jamie makes a really good point. Van Veen is the only player to win a world ranking title in the last year that isn't Luke Littler. Gezi hasn't won a ranking title for 5 years.
He's still holding a title as well. He is still the reigning, defending. And there's only one other man that can still have Lewis Jones call him the reigning defending when he comes out.
I don't follow these
not much longer,
but the tennis rankings and the golf rankings move a lot more fluently, and people are where they should be. I see more change when I'm watching Sky Sports News and whatever. I see more change in their rankings than I do the darts rankings.
Scotty's been world number one in golf for the past 5,000 years. Didn't win a single major this year.
But going back to Dan's point, and look, the world should be worth more. I'm not saying it shouldn't.
It shouldn't be worth as much as it is.
Correct. The gap is too big, and that needs addressing. And they can't do that on money. So it has to change away from the money system for me, because the money's just gone up the money's just gone up this year, so it's not going to go up again. And it's the top end. The top end's fine. Any adjustments in money should be at the bottom end of tournaments.
Agreed. There should be, but we've always said this, haven't we?
Yeah, 100%. So I think it needs changing, and changing massively. I don't think it will. But
I quite like the fact that obviously Gezi's now he's beat 3 semi-finals in a row in ranking events, and his ranking is now reflecting that. He had a shocking World Championships. It happens. It can happen. But again, Russell Jamie coming in. Trump's still world number one. Won nothing in snooks. And that's the thing. The thing is that I think we could all agree right now that Lou Littler is the greatest player on planet darts. I don't think that's necessarily the biggest shout of the year. But all I'd say is that
there's no question.
But I'd still probably put Kian above Gezi. I'm not saying it's not close. Of course it is. But at the end of the day, he's won a tournament. Gezi hasn't. It's how it works. Speaking of that European Championship now, and speaking of winning the World Match Play, did you see how pissed off Booker's was?
Yeah,
he's got to go to Leicester. Pissed off he was.
He's got to go to Leicester.
He doesn't have to go to Leicester. He could go to Hildesheim if he wants to.
Or where is it? Is it Den Bosch? The other ones, or is it Nashshot? I can't remember.
Yeah,
exactly
that way.
Is it Ross Marlin?
Might be Ross Marlin. Where is it?
There's not much difference between them.
No, it is Den Bosch. Right. So yeah, it doesn't really make.
There's options. There's options there, isn't there?
Yeah.
He's got 4 chances to qualify for Minehead. He's got 4 events at the Morningside Arena in Leicester.
Do you reckon if he doesn't get it off of Leicester, do you reckon he might go to Den Bosch?
No.
You don't think? I think
I spoke to him off camera, and I was like, "Those 2 in Den Bosch as an emergency." His words were, "No fucking chance."
He's got there's 4 UK ones in there.
4 Pro Tours left in the
European
UK.
ones sandwiched in between.
Yeah.
And what's he got? He needs to make 23 grand.
Well, that's 23 at the moment. That's going to go up.
Not bad.
I reckon he's got to win 2.
There's some shite.
He's got to win 2.
I think he's going to be closer to 30. That is the carve.
He's got to win 2 and probably make at least a semi of 1 more if he's only going to do 4.
I think it's going to be closer to 30.
If he's doing 4, it has to be at least 2 wins minimum, and then a semi-final of another, if he's going to do it. But my God, if he does, it'd be absolutely hilarious. And that is that if he was to actually go and do it in complete darts, what more is there for him to do?
If half the chat room, he just has to win it all 16 times before we can take him seriously.
Yeah. But wouldn't it be more funny if he just went, fuck it, someone else can win that one, I'm not going, and then him come out and say, yeah, but you only won it because I wasn't there.
Well, this is the problem, and we've said this, haven't we? Any event that he doesn't take part in it's tainted, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is tainted because everyone else that lifts a trophy, if he doesn't participate, there's an asterisk next to it. There is an asterisk next to that achievement that says, well, you only won it because he wasn't there.
But also, can you imagine if he does win the European Championship? It's obviously very likely to happen. But that is really, realistically, I think, the only championship left, apart from round 1 of the World Grand Prix, where you could catch him cold, because it's the first to 6 legs, essentially.
How much of a disaster do you think it is? Not a disaster, but like, I get, and I've always defended the right for these players to pick and choose, make their own diary, and they've earned the right to decide what they want to do and when they want to go to work. But if you are the title sponsors and the organisers of that Players' Championship finals, and you've then got that opportunity, not because what that then is lost, it's not just a tournament that is missing Luca Littler, which is a lesser tournament. Like, that is a lesser tournament for anybody there. We go to Minehead every year, Jarlath, and if we're told that Luke Littler isn't going to Minehead this year, that is a lesser tournament.
Correct.
Now, if not only have you been robbed of Luke Littler being at your tournament, but you've also been robbed of the chance for him to make that piece of history, that achievement, where all of the photographs and all of the story will be done on the backdrop of your beautiful bright red stage and everything else. That's got to be frustrating to the point where I might find myself, if I was them, in my next meeting, perhaps banging my hands a little bit on the table and demanding some explanations about how this is going to be avoided in the future. Because we all know how
I can tell you how it's going to be avoided in the future.
We all know how it could be avoided, don't we?
We all know how it will be.
Yeah, I've got a fairly good idea how it's going to be avoided.
I fear if it happens, don't get used to it, folks. And what I mean is, if it happens that Luke isn't there, it will happen but once. It will not be allowed. It will not be allowed to happen a second time, because there are far too many people. Because again, that is a moment that is a potential history-making moment. That is let's be honest, that is the difference between second place and third place. Second place and first place in the BBC Sports Personality of the Year. It is being able to achieve that in a calendar year, and there is a number of things that. And again, if I were the title sponsor, I'd probably be pretty frustrated that had been allowed to slip through the net, and that my stage wasn't going to be on all of those video packages that would be reused in the wider media.
Well, we know, or we've heard, that there is going to be some changes, not to necessarily to qualification, but we do know that there's some changes afoot in a couple of TV tournaments, isn't there, Philip?
Well, yeah, look, we know the new major's coming. We don't know full details, but there is a major going to Germany. By the general pride bits that what we know, it's basically going to be the UK Open, but in Germany, with German amateurs in and so on, which will be interesting to see how that works. The interesting point on that is we don't have the Premier League dates yet, but surely that has to happen after Berlin Premier League, the same as you would say, because trying to get players, staff to Germany after a Premier League night, so you would say that has to be after Germany,
or do they do it the week before the World Cup or after the World Cup? Because more players will be over there. I don't know.
I suppose depends when they're going to drop it. It depends when they're going to drop it in the calendar and what channel it's going to be broadcast on.
Well, we know it's going to be on Sky Sports, don't we?
Well, they haven't said that yet. But it's not.
I'm guessing it will be.
Yeah. It might be another ITV one.
Maybe on the Beeb.
They got fuck all.
they've got no cash, lad. That ain't happening.
They've got my TV license money, so they can start to spend that.
Did you buy a TV license during the World Cup, mate? Would you remember that? Good God. No,
mate, I'm that investor. I tipped them. I sent an extra $5 and said, keep those afternoon plays coming on Radio 4.
Do you know what? Having been in a car with you when we went and
listening to players on Radio 4.
Yeah, but do you know what, Barzi? I did the school run with Daniel.
You did,
when I was up there. And I didn't realise that his kid's school was a Catholic school, and there were two blokes going to pick up Dan's kids. I don't think that we were very welcome at that point. That's all I'll say on that one.
But going back, so yeah, look, we believe, Joel, that it's going to be all 128 players in there. Now, we know how some of them feel about going to Germany at the best of times. Will they go with no prize money for round? There are so many things to be answered on this, which will be interesting.
It depends where it is in Germany as well, because to be honest, I am closer to some parts of Germany than other parts of Germany are. Like it's a big out, it's a big place. Some of it's a ball ache to get to. Some of it's very convenient and very easy to get to. But it all depends on where it's going to be, and that unfortunately, certainly the top players, you've got to make it easy for them because it's too easy for them to say no. They've got to be able to get in and out, and they've got to be able to, be looked after.
100%. Yeah, but the thing is that you look at it now, right? And you look at all the developments. I worry that there might be the oversaturation argument again, because I've always said right now, I'd happily take the World Grand Prix right now and take it elsewhere. Leicester hasn't worked for me. It doesn't.
I don't think that we're getting an extra major and an extra Euro Tour next year. For me, I don't think there's too much darts. I think the calendar needs completely redoing because it's an old calendar and they just bolted stuff on and it's lopsided now. So I think saturation isn't an issue if they go back down and break it down and go, right, that goes there, and they manage the calendar properly. You know what I mean?
You have a huge anchor in the middle of it for 17 weeks that really compromises. So the calendar it's not lopsided. It's just that more. It's just the majority of the tour aren't playing the Premier League, and the Premier League takes up so much resource, and if you put something else on during that time, you won't get the marquee players. It's very difficult, and it's where you start from scratch. If you were to unpick it and start from scratch, I genuinely believe. I talked to someone about this, right, and the person that I thought would have some insight as a bit of a thought experiment is the person that I know that re-timetables schools. So if you've got to fail in school and the timetable is upside down and everything's not quite as it should, and it means that you're spending too much money and everything's disorganized, I thought I'll pick his brain and see, because it's a bit of a concept that he's quite good at. And the biggest problem is the Premier League. Ruins it.
But and this is a point that Barzi was alluding to beforehand, will it be as much of a problem next year? Because it won't be. because
If
all the top
if they
16 will
guarantee
be in
the top
everything.
16, then it's not an issue.
No.
Because
And
then
also, also, I'm with you. I think that the World Grand Prix or the Slam should move to after the Premier League, but before the match play, because then it frees up some other points of the calendar.
I think there's too many majors in the back end of the year. Like,
correct.
So, if you look at an ideal world, right? Forget the Worlds, because for me that's the close of the season. So you start in the end of January with the Masters.
Yep.
You've then got the UK Open at the beginning of March. You then have something, whether it's this new major or you move the Grand Prix to the end of April, beginning of May. Then you've got the match play in July. That front half of the year is all of a sudden spaced a lot better for me.
The thing is that you can't. I don't think the Premier League, with the Premier League being where it is, it means that the World Grand Prix have got to be in June. Has to be in June before the World Cup. It's got to be, or the Slam. Either one.
Yeah. So okay, you put the new major in April. Probably the end of April. The World Grand Prix beginning of June. The World Cup at the end.
Then the match play in July.
Into the match play.
Yeah.
That then leaves you August for World Series and Pro Tours.
Yeah.
Because it then doesn't matter if you're guaranteeing the top 16, you can send them off on the exhibitions. It doesn't matter. Then players have got darts in August. In September, you've then got the World Series finals. I know you don't like it, but it's still in there. So there's a TV event there.
It has to be. It has to be.
Yeah. Then October, you can have the European Championships.
Yeah.
November, at the beginning of November, you have the Slam. The end of November, the Players' Championships into the Worlds. And that then frees up more time to fit in Pro Tours as well, with the back end not being so clustered with majors.
I think the key thing here is that obviously you look at the back end of this year. You know, the World Grand Prix starts on the first day, last Monday of September. It's the first, into the first week of October. Okay, fine. At the end of October, you then have the Euros. Straight after that, it's the Slam at the 14th of November. The Players on the 27th of November, the week following, and then it's the Worlds 2 weeks later. It's all just too much, So absolutely, if we can front load a bit more of the tournaments, plus as well, you got to think of the broadcaster here. You think of the broadcaster. Genuinely, the main broadcaster. You think that between obviously February and May they've got the Prem, they then have the World Cup. Okay, fair enough. But then straight away in July, it's just the match play. Then but that's the only issue. Then the only issue is that they don't have any top level darts. Then all the way through until November when the Slam's on. That's the only issue, and they might not be happy with that.
Possibly, and then ultimately, broadcasters will have the final say because they're the one coughing up a fucking load of money.
But also,
at the end of the day,
Kevin asked about the amount of tournaments there are in Germany. It's quite simple, mate. Germany's the biggest darts market in the world.
Yeah,
the money generated in Germany is huge.
And believe me, if somebody else was, if any other nation was prepared to input the same amount of capital, you'd immediately see a switch for the events to be played there instead. It is purely and simply that is which is again, that's why the World Series events are where they are, and unpick it all, and you'll find at the end there's a bloke with a checkbook.
Here comes the money.
Money.
So this is that we need to, and we'll do it because we've got a dry spell coming up. We need to talk about walk-ons again at some point. There was some good and some bad and some indifferent at the match play. Why on earth?
But Bo's new walk-on tune wasn't good.
Why on earth Luke Littler didn't come out to the Shane McMahon money song when he tipped the 3 million. Like when he tipped the 3 million. Like we need to be more dynamic. We need to change up. We need to start offering something new and interesting. Get people excited. Yeah, we'll talk about walk-ons another day.
Warren, it says there about making New York a ranking event. You're barely going to get players to go over there to play in Germany or Holland for for big money. If you make New York a ranking event, bring back Desert Classic, Barney might win one then because he was the last winner of it. Bring it back.
I'll tell you what. As whilst we're on America, 2 points. Look, I'll acknowledge it, but I can't tell you anything because I didn't watch it. The WDF Masters week happened in Vegas. I didn't watch any of it, so I can't really comment on it because I didn't see it. I watched Matthew Edgar's bits just because he's a mate, and I watched it, but I didn't see any of it to comment on.
Yeah,
I looked at the numbers on Dark Connect and so on, but
not guilty. I'm afraid. I was
at the match. I was there match play week.
I was at the match.
Sorry, Will.
Yeah, I was at the match play in the venue all week.
And I was just very after coming off of a finals day.
No excuse.
Oh, I did.
I've got to say,
coming off the finals day.
Well, I've got to say, the board and the final board with the video board looked incredible. I saw that on social. That looked amazing. So well done. Look, it was produced by USA Darts. Will, friend of the show, mate. Good to have you in. Look, numbers were down, Rob, but look, I think that was kind of expected because of how late it was. I'd be interested to see how the numbers next year stack up with everyone's got a year to get ready for it.
Yeah, I
think that's a fairer reflection. Is looking at next year's numbers where people know when it is and have had time.
Yeah, people have got a year to plan, haven't they? And that will, like you said, be the true test of whether or not it will be a successful event and what the natural level of entries would be.
Yeah, 100%. Look, the PDC would love to have an event in Canada, but there's no TV broadcast for it, which is the issue. There's no TV deal in Canada.
Do you reckon TSN might pick it up now that ESPN have picked it up in America?
Possibly.
They're quite
that's always been what the issue, the biggest issue why there's been no World Series event in Canada is the TV deal.
That's because as well, I mean, you know me, this is my sort of, my autism really enjoys this sort of TV deals and stuff like that, right? That the thing is that Canada, there is no money. Like Rogers Communications, who own, I think they own TSN, I'm not sure, but certainly like the main free-to-air broadcaster, CBC, has had Hockey Night in Canada there for the past 60 years, and now that's gone in the new TV deal. There's no money in Canadian broadcasting. It's ridiculous.
Some other good news. We have our first confirmed guest, apart from Mace, for the World Championship Live Lounge Live from the wonderful Prince of Wales in Ilkeston.
Do we?
We do.
Yeah,
it was confirmed at the match play. Mr. Warren Little is joining us.
Oh,
the Live Lounge Live.
I think we've actually got. We're not going to. We'll bleed them out over time, but I think there's a few more to. There was a number of people that have. I'm not going to say that they've probably firmly put it in their calendars, but we've had a number of quite impressive guests loosely commit.
Yeah,
I mean, there is still the big interview that we are looking to do, as well at some point over the next coming weeks and months.
After the World Match Play. I can categorically say he won't be on.
Well, so we yes, no. I'm not sure why.
It's not happening
without getting into trouble again.
Let's just say I upset him again.
Yeah. And for the record, and I had to be very firm with this, and I did explain this to Peter, it's him, not me. I did have to say it. And I did have, there was a point at which I had to sometimes, most of the time I just assume I'm in the wrong. And I did have to say, look, I think I've been a bloody good boy on that front in recent times. And I had a conversation with Peter last year. I had another conversation with him this year, and it's him, not me. It's not my fault.
To be fair, it got to the point this year. I won't tell you what we were arguing about, but I made him walk away, didn't I?
All right, Craig David.
Honestly, I made him.
Yeah,
I'm walking away.
Yeah,
for
the record, it is. I mean, we could. If Peter wants to come on, we're happy for Phil to step off. We're happy for Phil to step up. We're happy for Phil to drop off that evening if it would make him happier.
Right, final plea as well here. It's not just Peter. It's Nick Rolls as well. The door is still open. Come on, have a chat. Come on, talk to us. Because a lot of people in the chat room care about the WDF. People want to see it successful. Come and have a chat with us, mate. The offer is always open. If you don't want to take it, that's your call.
If you don't bite, even Dan can host again that night.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Kevin, I could guarantee you right now, I don't think Bobby George will be on. Just a thought.
To be fair, Bobby's been on the live lounge before.
Bobby's been on. Yeah, we had him on when he brought his book out, didn't he? We've had. Do you know? I rattled off a list of our guests to somebody the other day off the top of my head, and do you know the amount of times as well when people say in the chat room, and again sometimes I have to remind people. People keep saying you should have Luke Littler on. You should have Luke. We've had him on 3 times.
Yep.
We've had him on more than anyone else. We've had him on more than any other live streamers.
Do you remember? I'll never forget that night in Ilkeston. Luke Littler could win the world championship on debut. You're fucking stupid, you lot. You ain't got a clue. You never did. You ever watch darts?
To be fair, we've got one guest penciled in for the 10th of August.
Oh, that's a good one. I know that one.
Yeah, we did that at the match play.
Yeah, people are going to be excited about that. That's a good conversation. That is.
Yeah. I need to confirm a date, but one of. How do I word? Influencer streamer. It's not Angry Jings, but we've got another influencer streamer that has done a bit of darts going to come on as well. And darts players have been on his show as well.
I know who it is.
Which got tight. I think that would be quite good, to be fair.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that'd be good.
And so on. So we've been doing some networking. So we are going to have some guests coming up. But there is plenty going on. We've got 2 live streams. No, sorry, we've got 3 live streams this week.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Because there is Euro Tour qualifier as well. And then we have got World Series streams to do, Euro Tour streams to do. Dan is doing one of the Euro Tour streams Friday at the end of the month because I've got a wedding.
Actually, I've got to say, 24th of August, I won't be here because I've actually got a Monday wedding. We're back to Monday weddings, everybody.
Whoa, time out. What's going on here?
Phil's going to a wedding, which means he'll have to polish his best flip-flops.
Yes,
correct.
And shorts. and shorts. Yeah.
I know, to be fair, this is right. Obviously, I live in Hampshire, and we've got some really posh places around here. This is at a posh place. I might have to look smart for this.
Christ!
Wow,
that means full-length trousers, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that's a first.
The only time I ever see Barzy as well.
The only time I ever see Barzy in full trousers is when he's in the press room. That's the only time I ever seen him wear jeans ever.
I had a grumble this week, Jarlath. Standards had slipped.
Go on. Why?
I just thought there was some peasantry when I was looking around at the effort people were making to look smart, and I thought not enough people. You know me, I wear a shirt and tie for work every day. I
do.
Yeah,
I certainly don't.
Put a tie on, collar on your shirt. Have you ironed that? Like that's my and I there was a few occasions this week where I tapped Phil and said, "Fucking scruffy bastards." Yeah.
Yes.
Put a tie on.
yes, Wayne, I am Team Rebels, and I will be bringing ultimate shithousery to whoever I play. I'm going to play.
No idea who that is. No idea what that is.
The lit darts. I am Team Rebels, so I am going to be bringing the shithousery.
Yes, you are, aren't you? You're.
I possibly couldn't comment, Rob, but I did do it in quite good time.
I know how quickly you did it because you told me, and I can't say that on air.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I realised what it was. Both it's one of my drive back. It's a beautiful drive, but it's not a beautiful drive at 1 o'clock in the morning because I've got to go north. So I have to basically go to the Lake District as if I'm going to Carlisle and then across the top.
And then across the top.
And if you go there on a beautiful summer's afternoon, it is a gorgeous drive. But if you've got to spend 3 hours at midnight and 1, 2, 3 in the morning, it's a torturous drive home.
Final thought before I know we need to close the show off. Final thought: the drive up to you, absolutely stunning, my friend, and I don't say that lightly. Beautiful, absolutely stunning.
Paul, that does work both ways. You both could have come and said hello. Just saying.
Come on, wrap it up on that bombshell.
But there is an invite. There is an invite on the table. Everybody is welcome.
Everyone's welcome.
Everyone's welcome on the live lounge.
If Dieter wants to come on the live lounge, there is an invite. Like if it clashes with another guest or something, then the dates might have to work out. But 1,000,000%, I think it'd be interesting chat. I, for one, again, I'd be keen.
Also, I've got 6 gear. I've got a 6-speed gearbox.
All right, sure.
Well, you did. Have you managed to get the car sorted? No.
Oh yeah, the Black Express was back in full operation to Blackpool and back.
I've only got one gear. 2 of you first. Yeah. Forwards and back. I like a simplism now in driving. I've stopped. That was in my youth. I used to like driving properly. Now I just do forwards and backwards. That's it.
But remember, this will be available as an audio only in the morning, and I will be live from 12 for the European tour. Remember, it is in Germany, so it is a 12 p.m. Start in the UK. So set your reminders because I will be live. But thank you so much as always, everyone. Remember, make sure you drop us a like and subscribe before you go. Thank you so much for all the support across the Betfred World Match Play. It was sensational. I'm in Phil Bars, Dan Simpson, and Jonathan. And until next week, we'll see you all very, very soon.